He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
All right, everyone, it's The Alex Marlow Show, Hawaiian Shirt Friday. Aloha to you. Aloha to alexmarlow.com if you want to correspond with me. Very festive time of year, a lot to celebrate, but we will start today. It's all pure news show today, by the way. If you want some more content from me over the weekend, highly recommend those 2 deep dive interviews I did, or 3 earlier in the week. We had David J. Harris, we got Alice Bruzewitz, and Siggy Flicker, all super interesting, and not the type of people that you're going to see long form on the podcast, and I think you'll enjoy those over the weekend. Feel free to share with a family member. You'll enjoy it. Enjoy the conversation, I promise. Chinese spy balloon 2.0. The Biden White House has dismissed the mystery drone sightings and suggesting its mistaken identity. This is an odd one for me because we've got this drone situation where all these drones popped up over New Jersey. We don't really know what's going on. We know that we know that the FBI says there's no evidence to suggest they're a national security threat, but they did the exact same thing with that Chinese spy balloon, which I documented in great detail in Breaking Biden. It's a surreal story where a Chinese spy balloon was clearly surveilling a nuclear facility that we have in the northwest of our country, over Montana. And we were in denial of this. It was floating over our country for days. We acted like it wasn't happening. It was reported in an obscure Montana paper at first, or was it South Dakota paper? Well, one or the other. I think it was. But it was a local paper. People were kind of incredulous about it, in disbelief. And then finally, they acknowledged this was probably a Chinese spy craft. And then we allowed for it to float all the way over the entirety of our country. And then we finally shot it down when it was over the Chesapeake Bay or something. So it was pretty clear it was trying to get information about one of our nuclear facilities there. And we played it off as if it was no big deal. And we refused to shoot it down until, even though it was, there's nothing to say that it was particularly dangerous if it fell to earth. Maybe it was, but they couldn't find a spot until they were over the Chesapeake. Huge humiliation for the Biden administration. I'm sure the Chinese were laughing to themselves. But it got even worse because just days later, another spy craft, a hobby craft that was put out by a high school hobby club that puts these tiny balloons that weigh about 6 pounds into orbit around the Earth. And we shot one of those down. And we did this in the Yukon, and we'll never get the evidence back because no one's ever going to go and get it. But we shot a Sidewinder missile, which run about $500,000. Just fired that right at that hobby balloon. It's just unbelievable. That's what we do, is we botch the important ones and then we blow to smithereens some kid's hobby craft. So this is what this looks like. So the New Jersey mayor calling for the drones to be taken down, and there's a refusal to do so by Biden government. They're just still downplaying it. And I got to tell you, I don't really know what's going on. People are saying they're spotting these drones all over the place. There was initial reports that this was some Iranian mothership. I don't even know what that means. But I will tell you one thing that is, don't get too confident that we know the answer to this. But we know that New Jersey residents can't be happy about this. Because I've been warning at Breitbart for, it's got to be over a decade, that these drones is a very peculiar thing that we have, that they're allowed to fly around. And we all love the drone footage in our favorite YouTube videos. It's all great. We know that it makes movies a little cooler. But overall, the people have these personal crafts and they can fly them around. They can take pictures of you at will, and they're so hard to control. And then you're the bad guy if you shoot them out of the sky. So I should have Misty pull this, but there's a guy who got arrested for shooting down a drone recently, and he was a real chubby old white guy. And when the cops put the cuffs on him, when the cops showed up, he said, "How much trouble am I in?" And then when he put the cuffs on him, he immediately said, "I can't breathe." An homage to George Floyd. What a legend. What a legend. But anyway, so these things float around. If you shoot them down, you're the bad guy, and they can just take pictures of you. Who knows what they're doing? Who knows what information they're trying to gather? And we just got to be very careful about this because I think we can't get overzealous with the new technology. We need to go very gently into the new technological age that we're in. Drones feel like they can probably do a lot more good than harm, but they can do a lot of harm. So I don't know what these are. This could be one of these ones where it's just a bunch of kids joking around. And then once it gets a mind of its own online, then it gets even bigger from there. But clearly the Biden administration not being forthcoming, if they know anything, and if they don't know anything, why don't they? Always cause for concern, and we'll keep you updated at Breitbart News. But the bottom line is we don't know what these things are at the moment, and the feds are downplaying it. So, all right, but the multiple states, it's an invasion, guys. It's an invasion. That's what we're seeing. Breaking news as we're recording might not be breaking news when you listen to the show, but Nancy Pelosi is hospitalized after an injury on an overseas trip, canceling a lot of engagements. She might have fallen downstairs is the initial report. This is from the AP I'm reading here, but she's been hospitalized in Luxembourg. Natural for her to be there at this time of year. Very Christmassy, I'm sure. She was there for the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. Well, we know her. She's a big World War II enthusiast. We know that about Pelosi. She was there at the time. Absolutely. And she says she's currently receiving excellent treatment from doctors and medical professionals. So interesting there. And we wish her the best and her team. Next update for all of you, keeping an eye on the appointments by Donald Trump, the nominations. And I've got no news, and no news is good news here. No news is good news. Nothing big coming out. I think my initial predictions that Trump's nominees are looking good, it still holds, but they got to do the rounds because it's a very narrow majority in the Senate when you consider the fact that there is this Rhino caucus. John Curtis could be worse than Romney. McConnell's kind of an oddball. And then you got Murkowski, Collins, et cetera. Joni Ernst seems to be on the fence about Hegseth. I feel like she's come around, but you never know until the votes get cast. So keep an eye on that. But Pete Hegseth going to the Army-Navy game with Donald Trump. If you go to my social media, you go to Alex Marlow on Twitter or X, as they call it now. I highlighted a video of Hegseth where he got asked a question about whether gays should be allowed to serve in the military, a position he said he shouldn't have. That shouldn't be the case. And he said, yes, it's fine. And he also then followed it up with, I do not feel compelled to answer to CNN, because it was a CNN reporter. Really good stuff. I just want to confirm him right there. Yeah, interesting thing with the gays in the military, because it feels like one where just culturally we're not up for that conversation, whether or not that is a legitimate conversation to have. And we probably could have it on the show, could probably have an intelligent conversation with some people about it. Whether or not that element should be introduced to our armed forces. But it's been introduced, it's been there a long time. And I think that was a very savvy way to deal with it. And I think dealing with it is he's just got to deal with it and move on. And that's what he's got to do. Keep digging in. And Trump wants these guys through. Trump has never been more popular. According to Real Clear Politics, which is the poll of polls, averages out all the polls, Trump has a positive favorability rating for the first time in his political career. Pretty amazing, right? First time in his political career, he's got a positive approval rating. I think top Rasmussen pollster, I got to remember this guy's name. I got to commit it to memory. He said Trump had a positive approval rating in the beginning of 2017, but the media lied about it and wouldn't tell you. But clearly this is the most popular Trump has ever been. And it's for a few reasons. I think the assassination attempt helped. I think these new people in his inner circle who were former Democrats, I'm talking Musk, I'm talking Tulsi, I'm talking Robert Kennedy. I think that grows his pie. I think, of course, the famous podcast strategy that's been the subject so often on the Alex Marlow show. I think that's a big deal. That's why I thought it was so important to talk to Bruzewitz earlier in the week, because the guy who came up with the strategy, he's out there. I was just talking to him. He's out there in Hollywood. He's not out there just talking to political people. He's talking to rappers. He's talking to NFL players. That's the plan, is that we're not trying to just keep the tent only political people. We want cultural people in the tent. So I'm talking to Siggy Flicker yesterday. We were talking to her about whether or not we need a Real Housewives of MAGA. We got to do this. We got to do a Real Housewives of Mar-a-Lago. I want to produce it. I want to be there. I want to be on the couch. I'm going to interview all of them. I can do it. I've seen enough of those shows. Mrs. Dr. Marlowe has got me hooked on that stuff. I have to say, it is a cultural experiment. It's what's going on with reality TV, and you can really give into it. That also, I'm being a supportive husband. Big shout out to Mrs. Dr. Marlow, by the way, passed the oncology boards. So now double board certified. So that means her take is going to be much more valuable. I'm thinking of making her a TV doctor. What do you guys think? I know I'm going to get hate comments, hate mail for that, but I think she'd be good. I think she'd be good. She'd be a good TV doctor. And she would definitely outshine me, and then I can retire, get 9 holes in. Sounds good. I'll just be your manager. It's some of you alphas in the audience just completely triggered by that comment, but it's consideration. But big congratulations to her. Hopefully she listened to this show so she can hear it. But it is noteworthy that Donald Trump is as popular as he's been, because that gives him a bigger mandate to do more things when he gets in there. And it means he should get the cabinet he wants, and allows us to put a lot of pressure on any of those wishy-washy conservatives. And that's why I feel like they're coming around. And it's noteworthy that when I asked Siggy yesterday, what's the vibe like at Mar-a-Lago, because she's there a lot. I think she's an actual member. I know she's a Trump surrogate, but she's there all the time. And she said that the real focus is on picking the right people for jobs. It's not just black tie events and partying in the YMCA and the Trump dance. It's also trying to get the people in place, which is the answer I wanted. That is the answer I wanted. So we are tracking that very closely at Breitbart News, but we also have to be really diligent about what Joe Biden is up to. And this is something that I'm very concerned about, and I will plug the Breitbart Fight Club, which is our premium membership program at Breitbart News. You get this, and you get a interview show I do every single day. I saw one of you in the comments complaining that I'm not interviewing John Nolte enough. I interview him once a week at Breitbart Fight Club. So I'll bring him on the show. I will, but I talk to John on my Breitbart Confidential show with the premium members every week. So you can go get a Nolte interview whenever you want. It might cost you $5 or $6, but it's not that much. John's an amazing guy. But my episode yesterday, I was talking to Nick Gilbertson, who's going to be our incoming White House correspondent. We haven't announced that yet, but you guys get a little sneak peek of that. And he is, I asked him a question. Is Donald Trump the de facto president? And a lot of people are writing this. Newt Gingrich, who I have immense respect for, wrote that Trump is the de facto president. Any of you who saw the coverage of Trump when he was at the Notre Dame reopening, the way people are looking at him, the way Georgia Maloney and Prince William, and I mean, you could see he's being feted, he's being greeted as if he really is already the president. You see the way people are just scrambling to get in his good side, the tech gurus, all that stuff. More on that later in the show. But I feel like this is a trap for us because it's so exciting now, it's so fun. But Joe Biden, in the meanwhile, is trying to do as much as he possibly can to cement his agenda. And we're seeing just huge levels of illegal immigration, record levels. We're seeing sanctuary city policies getting entrenched. There's an article that was kind of mind-blowing by David Leonhardt in the New York Times, a liberal guy, doesn't like Trump. This is the headline. Recent immigration surge has been largest in U.S. history. Under President Biden, more than 2 million immigrants per year have entered, according to government data. So, and this is not stopping. I noted earlier in the week, and we had this as a lead story at Breitbart.com, Alejandro Mayorkas has a jobs program going right now for illegal immigrants. It's not for Americans. It's for people who are not naturalized, for people who are coming in to work. Why? They're trying to get as many people to flood the border as possible. They want a maximum chaos strategy. Many of you remember your Cloward Piven strategy that Glenn Beck was obsessed with a decade ago, which is basically these neo-Marxists trying to sow economic chaos to bring about societal and political change. Well, that same principle is in effect here with illegal immigration. That's the goal, is they want things as wild as humanly possible for us to make it much more difficult for Donald Trump to win. And when there's political upheaval, people start questioning basic stuff like the Constitution, et cetera. And then all of a sudden we're unmoored from our traditional American values. And now we're turning to weird things. We're turning to Marxism. Even Jerry Brown, the two-time governor of California, admitted what's going on in California in particular, the sanctuary laws. Some cities have went way, way beyond that. So what may have started as an effort to treat people who came here illegally with dignity and respect has morphed into a political game plan for Democrats to create a new generation of voters who start out on the dole. They don't all speak English. They're not going to get shows like this. They're not going to get content like Breitbart's, aside from the stuff we publish in Spanish, which is quite a bit. And they're going to become Democrats. That has been their game plan. So be on the lookout that this is still going on, and we got to be very careful. Joe Biden has other stuff he wants to do and things he wishes he could do still. I got a clip. This is kind of unbelievable that he is pointing out that he wished he did more stimulus. He wished he did more stimulus than he already did. Let's play this.
America, no matter where they lived, whether they went to college or not, I was determined to restore U.S. leadership in industries of the future. 4 years later, we have proof that the playbook is at least now working. Within the first 2 months of office, I signed the American Rescue Plan, the most significant economic recovery package in our history. And also learned something from Donald Trump. He signed checks for people for $7,400 because we passed the plan. And I didn't. Stupid. But all kidding aside.
If you watch that, you really probably enjoyed that quite a bit because it was pretty funny. He made a funny face. He pointed out his head. He said it was stupid. He wished he cut us more checks. The guy's whole economic policy, the thing that got him removed from office more than anything else, aside from that horrible debate, was the fact that Joe Biden kept the deficit spending at a level that we've never seen before that created record inflation. That's the problem with Joe Biden. That was his original sin. The American Rescue Plan, I think it ended up being called the American Recovery Plan, or is that a different one? But the bottom line is that we were already recovering majorly. We had the quickest economic growth in our nation's history, at least since World War II, in the second half of the year 2020. And Biden comes in and he just spends one package after the next. He also said that he regrets calling the Inflation Reduction Act the Inflation Reduction Act. And why wouldn't he regret calling it that? It didn't reduce inflation. So I think it should have been illegal for him to call it that. That was not what it was about. It was really Build Back Better, just watered down. Build Back Better was, this might ring a bell. That was what he was trying to force on us for so long. So he actually regrets not just confiscating more money from future generations, because we don't have it in the Treasury. So he basically had to mortgage our future some more, and he should have sent more money to people. And you know what that would have done? And maybe it would have alleviated a little stress for a month, and then it would have had inflation even more out of control than it already was. So Trump has a completely different economic message, and he got to bring it at the New York Stock Exchange. This was a couple days ago, but I cannot resist playing some of this footage because it's very cool just to see him. Let's play this one right here.
I know you've got a ton of things to do, but what can you say to the working person who owns stock? Should they buy more stock?
Well, I don't want to get into a situation where they do and we have a dip or something, because that can always happen. You know that better than anybody in the world, probably. I think you're the leading authority in going up and going down, but you always end up. He always ends up. That's the good news. But we have, like, Doug Burgum standing right over here, has done a fantastic job. He's been on your show many times, and we have just tremendous people. I would say this, I think long term, this is going to be a country like no other. We had the 3 best years ever until COVID came in, and then we did a good job getting rid of it. The stock market, if you look at the markets, were higher than just previous to COVID coming in when we handed it over. And
yeah, so he wants the stock market high, and he points out that the everyone likes a high stock market, and I say this reluctantly. This is reluctant for me because I thought his stock market obsession did not help him in his first administration, because he was speaking on behalf of people who, are more heavily invested, big corporations. And I liked when he was in a more populist footing, and a lot of people who have a lot of day-to-day expenses are more concerned about grocery prices than their 401k. I do quite well in my personal life. So does my wife. We have nice income, but we're much more concerned about day-to-day prices. We're not looking at our retirement right now with as much concern as the fact that every time I go to the grocery store now, it feels like it's $230 plus. That's a bigger deal to us. And I feel like that's something that I think he fell for that trap. in his first administration. But I bring this up now because I do actually think he's right here. I think when he's looking at the stock market as something that is a sign of good times, I think that is true. And I think the data backs this up. John Nolte's actually written this up for us at Breitbart News, noting how the stock market is something that is most Americans say the stock market is important to them. So I'm giving Trump credit. Look, I'm going to be my own ombudsman here. If I have one where I feel like maybe I was off a little bit in the past, but that's good. But Trump's on a roll. Christopher Wray resigning was great news. There's one other thing, though, just to connect these stories. Christopher Wray from the FBI. There's a couple of big points here that I want to make about Wray's resignation. The first one is he resigned on the day that the Justice Department revealed 26 FBI informants attended the January the 6th protest. Now, is there anyone in this audience who's surprised that there were some feds at that protest? So just note that whenever you hear people like me say that everyone was overcharged, that January the 6th was way overblown, and that everyone overreacted to it, just keep that in mind. Because when you 26 FBI informants here, what do you think they were doing? They were tamping stuff down? They were just keeping an eye on stuff? Or do you think perhaps they were using it to try to goose the bad guys out in the open so that they could, I don't know, jail hundreds of them and charge 1,000 of them? Feels like that was the move. That was always the move that the FBI was going to do. And now we got the evidence from the Justice Department that was going on. And that's the day Wray resigns. So I'm happy to see Wray go. It's proving my point about the self-deportations. This is one of the phrases I coined at the very beginning. It's why I thought the Matt Gaetz pick was so fun, even though it didn't last. I wish it did. But I thought part of the fun of making Matt Gaetz Attorney General would have been that people would just start quitting. They wouldn't try to just hang out for 4 years and try to do the deep state thing where they try to manipulate and capture power from within. I had figured that if you get someone that repels them so much, it offends them at the top of these jobs, then people will just start quitting on their own. And this is a good piece of evidence of that. The Wray's out, and of course, he's going to get fired by Trump, and Kash Patel hopefully will get installed. I think Kash Patel is doing a great job so far. Seems like he's getting a huge amount of support. It just would be sensational for us because I feel like the FBI has been a black box for as long as I've followed the news. I don't think I've ever had really deep FBI access personally as a journalist, and it's tough to get, obviously. But I feel very positive about the prospect of, with Kash Patel in there, that I'll get a sense that I can bring to you. Maybe not everything will be on the record, but I feel like I'll be able to report to this audience much more effectively with Patel. So I couldn't be more excited about that. But the fact that Wray leaves, it also made me think about the chaos. It is not going to be a smooth transition. That's not a peaceful transition of power. So if he's out of there, then who's the one who proactively transfers the power to Kash? Who's the one who shows Kash his way around the office? And that's a level of destructiveness that could actually work against the United States of America. And that's where you have to keep a very close eye on Democrats, because they're willing to do this. They're willing to do things that will make the country a worse place to spite their political opponents. And when you see Trump's favorability ratings, you would think that maybe some of them would get smart and not do this. We're seeing Eric Adams. Eric Adams is looking to meet with Tom Homan about deportations. He gets it. New York City mayor, he knows illegal immigration is ruining his city, among other things, but that's a big one. So he wants to be part of the solution. He wants to help Tom Homan get his deportations done. And he wants to help him get the deportations done, partially because what this would do is it would make New York a cleaner, more livable place, get him some good PR, and then maybe benefit from some of the economic boon that would take place if a lot of Trumpian Americans would come back. I'll tell you, I used to go to New York about 6-8 times a year. It was a pleasure to go. I would always come up with some work excuse. I had a radio show based out of there, but I didn't have to be there ever. And I would go up, and then inevitably you make a weekend out of it, and you spend a bunch of money, more than you should. It's an expensive city, but it's a blast. New York at its best is so fun. When you're talking about eating and shopping and being a part of the history and the culture and the people watching, it's amazing. I have not been since the pandemic. all the trash and all of the corruption and all of the filth and all of the crime and the illegal immigration stuff and the fact they can't get out of their own way, it just puts you off. It's already expensive enough, and it's kind of a pain to get around town once you're there. Unless stuff's walkable. And I just wash my hands of it. I'm sure I'm not alone in this regard. So Adam's got to know this, and he sees that, and there's that possibility that's out there. But then there is the flip side. DC food workers are vowing Trump officials won't feel welcomed when dining out in our nation's capital. I'll tell you that, when Trump won, I had a lot of people, both professionally and personally, who asked me, you think I'm going to go into the administration? Am I going to go back to DC? Am I going to go work in the administration? And one of my closest family members said to me, yeah, but if you go in a high profile role, you won't be able to go out to eat. And then I said to them, I've got 4 children, so I don't get to go out to eat anyway, so that doesn't affect me. But I see your point. But it is a really interesting thing that the Democrats do, that they make it miserable for you to go out to eat. I still haunts me footage of my old friend Stephen Miller just getting harassed. He can't even pick up sushi without getting harassed in DC. People staking out where Trump officials are going to be, and then they rally and they protest against them. Now, at this moment in time, it might be such a bad idea because the blowback online would be pretty severe. I think it will be a bad look. But you never know with the blue sky stuff that's happening, with people all of a sudden feeling like it's normalizing to, take joy in the fact that their political adversaries were murdered. If we're in that type of a climate, then perhaps the protests at the restaurants of the Trump officials are going to return. And that's not a good place. I got to say, when Breitbart started to get a lot of notoriety, 2016, 2017, I had to start using an alias when I would go out to eat. And I know celebrities do that so that they can get in without the paparazzi. No, I was doing it so that no one would use Google at the restaurants or whatever, figure out who I was, and tell someone in the kitchen to, spit in my food. And I don't think this is unreasonably paranoid. I'm not a particularly paranoid person, to be honest with you. I'm a cautious person in some ways, but I wouldn't call myself paranoid in the slightest. And it's one of these things where I feel like it was just dumb to just announce the editor of Breitbart showing up at a DC restaurant. And I think times have maybe changed a little bit, but maybe not. If this is what's being announced, it's a Fox News report. So fascinating stuff. And I'm on pins and needles on this one. Is the world going to get markedly more chaotic because Trump is in and the deep state's going to freak out? The blue sky crowd, the Taylor Lorenz crowd is going to freak out? Or are things going to get calmer this time because he won with such a mandate and so much of the culture now seems to be on Trump's side? That is one of the absolute mysteries of our time. Yeah, one more immigration one to clean it up. Record 3.5 million immigrants awarded U.S. citizenship. Biden's legacy, 3.5 million. Bookmark that article by John Binder at Breitbart. Record number awarded citizenship. All right, I got a video I want to play. I haven't touched on the hot hunk that murdered the CEO, allegedly. Let's play Taylor Lorenz, the spokesperson of Gen Z neurotic millennials, particularly, to be honest, neurotic millennial women. Here it is. Let's see what she's up to.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy.
She's saying that she was feeling joy at the prospect of this CEO getting murdered, or when she heard he got murdered. Now, quick update on that story. What we've learned is that the CEO was not the CEO that did anything wrong to this alleged murderer. So this Luigi character, if he's the guy, he was not a United Healthcare customer. He did not have their services, so he couldn't have possibly denied care to this guy. Not to mention the big point, which I think is a bit of old news at this point, but it's still worth pointing out, that this guy was so wealthy, this Luigi guy, his family. He wasn't just a member of 2 country clubs. His parents owned 2 country clubs. So anyone who felt joy, and I'll play one more time just to be sure. This is Taylor Lorenz, former Washington Post employee, admitting she felt joy when this guy got murdered.
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy.
Joy over murder of a husband and father of two. And anyone online who justified it, anyone online said that violence is never good, and then they offered some rationale. Just point out to them that this was an incoherent ideology this guy had. There's a rich guy. He was not a poor guy who was denied coverage. He got the coverage, and he went nuts. This guy had mental illness. If it is, in fact, this Luigi character. It was not that he was so, that he had been slighted in some way by the healthcare industry. Very important to note that. All right. I want to bring something to your attention, and this is going to be across the board at Salem. We got Inauguration Day, January 20th in Washington, D.C. That's going to be the place to be then. That's where Donald Trump will be when he'll be inaugurated, the 47th president of the United States. He's already 45th. He'll be 47th now. And the Salem team, they're going to offer a once-in-a-lifetime chance to go there. VIP experience, attend the inauguration in Washington, D.C., including airfare for you and a guest, a 3-night stay in the nation's capital. This is a nice trip. Tickets for the presidential inauguration and much more. I went to the inauguration on 2016, and I got to say, it is the social event you could go to in America. That's it. That's the number one social event you can go to in this country is a presidential inauguration. So don't miss the extraordinary opportunity. Celebrate the greatness, history, and excitement of inauguration, and it's of Donald Trump, which doesn't hurt. To enter, you can see the link in the show notes. So, we got to add show notes with the link. Go to salempodcastnetwork.com/Trump. salempodcastnetwork.com/Trump for more information. Just obviously, you should just try it to see if you win. Why wouldn't you? Makes perfect sense. All the sense in the world. All right, a lot of other news that's going on. I want to cover a lot of ground here. I got some one-off stories I think are worth your attention. Oh man, I forgot to mention how good Melania looked when I played the Trump video. I don't have too much. I won't go back. But man, you guys got to check it out. We're going to do a big story on Melania, how good she was looking. She's unbelievable. And I mentioned this not as, not some sort of Melania fantasy. I'm just saying she's the picture of elegance and class and grace. You think she would ever tolerate a husband who wore a quarter zip? No way. Absolutely not. All right. Crystal Magnum. That name might ring a bell. Those of you who were following the Duke Lacrosse rape hoax in 2006, one of the original woke rape hoaxes, where this former stripper claimed that these white privileged Duke Lacrosse players were gang raped her at a party. And all of the evidence began to emerge that she'd made this up. And yet the media stuck by it for a long time because they couldn't believe that the victim here was actually the privileged white jocks and not the poor black stripper. And it also helped put my friend Stephen Miller on the map, which is amazing because I'd known Stephen Miller in high school because he was an activist in Santa Monica, where he was policing the Santa Monica high school basically for all their wokeness already. And a frequent guest on my friend and colleague Larry Elder's radio show. And I was just obsessed. I mean, it was amazing stuff. It inspired me to start getting involved at a younger age. And I reached out to Larry. I became Larry's intern. And that's how I met Andrew Breitbart for a lot of ways. So anyway, so this was clearly a hoax. The media stuck with it. And Stephen Miller got put on the map by fearlessly reporting it was all a hoax. But this person, Crystal Magnum, went on to get convicted of murder. She literally got convicted of murdering someone. And she just said on a podcast called Let's Talk with Kat, I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong. And I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed me. I made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. And then now she's serving a murder sentence for murdering her boyfriend. But yeah, falsely accused 3 people. And, you ruin people's lives. And I'll tell you, it's not just a race thing here. There are a lot of white liberals who are egging this on. A lot of white liberals egging it on. And just note that the left always sees race. I was thinking about this a little bit with how I don't think naturally we're racist as a people. And I think the left lies to us about this. we're in, it's, Christmas time over here in the Marlow house. And so we're an elf on the shelf time. Elf on the shelf is exactly my sense of humor. Those of you who are unfamiliar or don't have small kids, it's where the elf is magically picks a spot in the house. It's a tiny little elf. It magically picks a spot in the house in the middle of the night. And that is where the elf resides all day. And you can't touch the elf or it loses its magic. And the elf is one of Santa's helpers and keeps an eye on things for Santa in the run up to Christmas. So you start December 1, I think, Advent, good timing. And so we're way into this. So when Master Marlow Jr. went to the store to pick out an elf for us, they selected a black elf. Now, why did my white children, the one with brown eyes and curly hair and the one with blue eyes and blonde hair, why did they decide to have a black elf? I have no idea. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen. Master Marlow Sr., he's got an avatar for a educational video game he's got to do at school. And for no reason, he chose a black kid in a wheelchair as his avatar. This is the funniest stuff I've ever seen, but it also shows you that he's been coached up by the left to start seeing race all the time. He was born not caring at all, not at all. And they thought having a black elf on the shelf would be the best elf to get. So that's what they picked. And you know what they named the elf? You're going to love this. This is not a joke. Snowflake. Snowflake is our elf, our black elf. And it teaches you that the children, they're not seeing the race. They're not sitting around obsessed with it. Now, I live in a neighborhood which is very diverse. It's not majority white, but maybe it's plurality white, but a lot of every mixed cultures. It's a real melting pot. It really is very cool. And people are not obsessed with race naturally. You get taught this. And then you get taught that if a black woman accuses white guys of a crime, she must be telling the truth. And I think we're moving past this, I hope. And even though I wish she had done this 18 years earlier, I'm really happy that Crystal Magnum, I'm sure that's her real name, her born name. I'm really glad she did this. All right. Other stuff going on I want to bring up. Druze Arabs, which is one of the groups in Syria we're keeping an eye on, asking to be a part of Israel and not rebel-held Syria. It's going to be a big thing. The chaos in Syria, we're tracking it moment to moment at Breitbart, and it's so complicated, I don't want to get the show bogged down with it. But I do think that this is clearly a historic event that's going on. And and I will say that the fact that we don't know what's going to happen with Christians, we don't know what's going to happen with the Druze, we don't know what's going to happen with the Kurds, is noteworthy. Assad, bad guy. It's not bad to see him go, but what will replace it? Will it be worse? That is the question. Unrelated but important, online gambling losses to drain $1 trillion from U.S. pockets by 2028. This is a story we have at Breitbart News. We're putting a marker down here. I'm going to do a lot more conversation on the risk I think online gambling is going to do to our young people. Incredibly addictive. I will tell you, I don't think I've got a particularly addictive personality, but the closest thing I would say to being addicted to something in my life was when I was playing online poker when I was in my 20s. It is really hard to stop once you get going. And I had to cut that thing off big league. And I'm very nervous for young men who get hooked on the online gambling. It's very cultural now. It's very, people are happy to do it. It's a reality. I'm not in denial that it's a reality. I'm not even necessarily saying it should be illegal. I'm not going that far yet. But I'm certainly saying that people are going to lose a lot of money because it is addictive behavior. It's compulsive behavior. And when it's too easy, and I'm not puritanical about this. I love to go to Vegas and play cards. It's really fun. But I confine it to when I get to Vegas to play cards, which is, once a year or less. I wish it was more. I wish it was 4 times a year. That'd be great. But it's not the sort of thing where now it's just so easy. You just can just whip out your phone and there you go. All right. Somewhat related, rape allegations against Jay-Z won't change his NFL partnership, says Commissioner Roger Goodell. This will shock you. I like it. I think Jay-Z's a bad guy. I hate his politics. I know he's criminal. And I think that there's a chance what's being alleged against him, that he raped this person with Diddy, is possible. But I don't like that the person's anonymous. I don't like that it came out decades later. I don't like that it came out after Me Too. And I believe we have to have a society where people are innocent until proven guilty. So you should not lose endorsement deals. I wish he did not have an endorsement deal with the NFL, with his company Rock Nation. I wish it wasn't there. But now that he has it, it should not be taken away from him until he's convicted of something. Just the bottom line. So, or unless some evidence that is irrefutable. This might not be a popular take on the show, but I want to bring you takes that I don't know if you'll agree with or not. I'm sure a lot of you just hate Jay-Z and you see blood in the water. I understand. I just don't think it's the right take. I think the right take is innocent until proven guilty in this country, regardless of your politics. In Biden's America, sometimes you're innocent even when you're guilty. He's granted clemency to 1,500 people record, commuted 1,500 sentences, pardoned a few dozen. This is a shock and awe thing because I can't vet all these people right away. And it's wise politically to do this all at once. Donald Trump Jr. is reported that Biden is commuted and pardoned a Chinese national in jail for possessing 47,000 child porn images. It looks like he's going off a Dallas Morning News story. I haven't read the Dallas Morning News story, so I won't totally vouch for it, but I want to give them credit if they're correct. You can pull it down. Why is this? You have to guess that the CCP has some ties to this person, and there's some trade that was done. But when you're commuting 1,500 sentences, and when you are when you are pardoning dozens of people, even people with a newsroom like mine, I can't dedicate enough resources to going through quickly and figuring out who all these people are and their backgrounds. So any of you online sleuths, aloha@alexmarlow.com. If you see a good one, please send it to me. And of course, this has reasonably prompted people to call for pardons of the January the 6th prisoners, commutations, etc. The Thomas Massey has said we need to pardon the J6ers on day one. Popular libertarian congressman. MAGA J6ers were prosecuted by the DOJ for coming to the Capitol on January the 6th. FBI J6ers were reimbursed by the DOJ for coming to the Capitol on January the 6th. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant take. That connects to the point I made earlier about all the FBI informants. Yep, I totally agree. If you committed some act of violence, then again, you're going to have to serve some time. I get it. But it's the other than that, then you got to be let go. You got to be pardoned. And if you didn't act of violence, you've probably served enough time at this point. And we got to move on. Got to move on. Those people were clearly, that was an op in a lot of ways. Some of it was legit, not good, but it was egged on by the FBI. Clearly, we all knew that was the case. We didn't know the exact mechanics of it, and now we're starting to know some. Big deal. Big deal. All right. I will resist the temptation to go through more news. I recommend Breitbart.com. For even more. Let me read some email. You guys have been terrific sending me email, leaving comments at YouTube and Rumble. Sharing our content is the best thing you can do for us, but sending an email is really fun. John, New Hampshire emails. Hi, Alex. So happy to hear you on air again. You leaving the morning show made me cancel my Sirius subscription. I like Sirius, though. Sirius is great. They've been good partners for us at Breitbart, but I appreciate the vote of confidence. It turns out I get to hear you commercial free for 45 minutes a day. Life is good. Oh, thank you. Well, there'll be some light commercials. I got to do my ad reads, guys. That's how we're going to grow the show. If you want me to go, fly out to Moscow to interview Putin one day, then, I got to make some money here eventually. But thank you. No, though the ads will always be at a minimum. The reason I was prompted to email you is a situation that arose this evening. I went out to eat at a fairly nice restaurant last minute and looked like a bum. Thank God I had a quarter zip in the car, which boosted my appearance 50%, deeming me acceptable to dine in such an establishment. You need to rethink your opinion on this garment and not let Morning Joe be the deciding factor for does anything about or on him seem right anyway. Okay, he's saying, does anything about Morning Joe seem right? No, I don't. No, you're making my point. Nothing about Morning Joe seems right. That's why I don't trust the quarter zip. Keep up the good work. What a great time in history to have a podcast. I agree. It's a great. That's why I'm doing it. I know that it's a crowded field, and I know that asking for you to pay attention to my show instead of a bunch of other shows is a big ask. But I think this is an amazing time to podcast, and I think I can have the best one. So that's the plan. He continues, I pinch myself every day not believing Trump became president. God is good. You got to take it in, guys. You got to take it in. It's an amazing holiday season. So much happier that Trump won. I got to say, I went and I hit golf balls the other day, a couple days ago, and I've been working really hard, so I've not been in my course for a while. But people just coming up, dapping me up. You know, that's the move where you do the kind of this handshake where you slap the thumb and then you do the sort of half hug. Everyone dapped me up at the course because they know how big this is. People are having fun. There should be a party this holiday season. We can't let our guard down, but it is time to celebrate. Absolutely. It's fun. Enjoy yourself, but not in a quarter zip. We can do better. Look, is quarter zip an improvement over wearing a trash bag? Yeah, of course. Is it an improvement over some sort of a ripped t-shirt, or if you're a man wearing a woman's t-shirt, or if you're a man wearing a dress? Yes, of course. It's better than that stuff. But I'm saying that we can elevate and be more thoughtful with our approach than the quarter zip. It's just too generic. It's too common. And it's not that great. All right. Let's see. Molly Marlow emails, but she went through the protocol. This is my sister, Molly. She emailed, and she was reminding me, reminding me of Lauren Benanti, I guess is her name. And she emailed aloha@alexmarlow.com. So she's in the queue. So she emails me. Lauren Benanti was the person who I flagged earlier this week that was screaming F you to Zach Levi, the formerly libertarian, but now pretty much MAGA conservative actor who starred in Shazam and Chuck and a bunch of other stuff. And how he's now out there, and now she's yelling F you to him because he likes Trump, and he admits he likes Trump. And she had done a play with him. And I theorized on the show she must be hot, because I feel like that if she was not hot, then she wouldn't feel like she could have gotten away with this childlike behavior. And Molly emails, Molly was a theater major actress. She says to me, we actually saw her on Broadway in Gypsy when we were taking me to college. So I saw this person in a Broadway play of Gypsy. Now, if you don't think I'm cultured, now you know. And Molly says she's pretty hot. Also, the Meet the Press lady said, we have changed our tests for autism, and that's why we are seeing it more. I've actually heard that test has not changed. Something to look into if you're curious. Sent from my phone. Yeah, I believe it's both. I believe we're better on the autism front at detecting it, and there's something going on. I think both is going on. I think it's clearly more prevalent, and we're clearly better at recognizing it. I think both are true. So I don't think it's an either or. And I don't know. The Meet the Press lady said we're testing for a better. I bet we are. But I also bet that there's something we're doing to ourselves that's causing it. And I have no idea what that is. And I could be wrong, but I would like to know. And I would like to ask, and I would like to not have videos censored. And so if I use the V word right now, it will get demoted in YouTube. That's a fact. If I use the V word, YouTube will track it, and then they will demote this video. And I'm not even questioning the V's. So you guys know what the V word is. You got to figure it out. It's not the first one you're thinking of. It's the second V word you're thinking of. Don't be a pervert on the show. We don't believe in that. But anyway, that's my theory, is that if you're a hot woman, you can get away with a little bit more. And if I'm wrong, you can take issue with me. aloha@alexmarlow.com. And I will air your grievances live on the show. That is today's show. Thank you for checking out those deep dive interviews we did earlier in the week. Sharing our content, recommending it to friends and family members is really big. alexmarlow.com. Sign up for my email. I'm not really sending any right now, but that's a goal for Q1 to start emailing you guys show notes and a little extra stuff for all of you. Particularly on days where I feel like I need to do an interview and can't really talk about stuff that's on my mind. It could be a good outlet for that. And you can get all my socials, which I'm posting on more frequently now that we got the show going. So all that's available. The Breitbart Fight Club for more of me and more of Breitbart. And that's it. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for watching and listening.